Your great-grandparents knew these 7 skills without thinking. Today, most people couldn't do even one of them. If modern life stopped for just a week, these forgotten skills could become priceless. If everything you depend on stopped working tomorrow, the power, the stores, the running water, the trucks that bring the food, how long would you and your family last? A week? A few days? Most folks have never had to ask themselves that question, and I pray they never do. But I want to share with you 7 skills my people have kept alive for hundreds of years. 7 skills that most of the world has forgotten, and any one of them could be the thing that saves your life or the lives of the ones you love when the easy way suddenly isn't there anymore. These aren't tricks. They're not hobbies. They're the foundation of how human beings survived for thousands of years before anyone flipped a switch. And the good news is, every one of them can be learned. So let me get right into it. The first skill, and maybe the most important one of all, is keeping food without a refrigerator. Think about that for a moment. Everything in your icebox right now depends on electricity that runs day and night without stopping. Let that power go out for 3 days in the summer, and most of what you own turns to waste and danger. But my family has always kept food that lasts months, even years, with no power at all. The old way is the root cellar, a cool, dark place dug into the ground or built into a hillside where the earth itself holds a steady, cool temperature all year round. Down in that cellar, potatoes keep for months. Carrots and beets and turnips, packed in sand or sawdust, stay firm and good through the whole winter. Apples, wrapped so they don't touch, last till spring. Cabbages, onions, squash, all of it keeps in the cool and the dark. You don't need a machine. You need the ground beneath your feet, which has been keeping food cool since long before there was such a thing as a refrigerator. And then there's canning, putting up food in glass jars sealed against the air so that the harvest of summer feeds you in the dead of winter. A pantry full of canned beans and tomatoes and meat is a pantry that doesn't care whether the power is on. That is real security, the kind you can hold in your hands. The second skill is fire. Now you might think you know how to make a fire, and maybe you do, but I mean truly knowing it, being able to make fire, keep it, and use it safely when your life depends on it. Fire is heat when the cold would kill you. Fire is a way to cook food and make dirty water safe to drink. Fire is light in the dark and comfort in the long night. In my home, we tend to fire through the whole winter, and there's a knowledge to it that most folks have lost entirely. Knowing how to lay it so it catches, knowing dry tinder from wet, and where to find dry tinder even on a damp day, in the dead standing wood, under the bark, in the heart of a split log. Knowing how to bank a fire at night so the coals are still alive in the morning, so you don't have to start over from nothing. Knowing how to keep a fire from becoming a danger to your home, because a fire untended is as deadly as no fire at all. This is a skill that kept our ancestors alive through every winter for all of human history, and it can keep you alive too. But it must be respected. A fire indoors needs air that moves, needs a way for the smoke to leave, because the smoke you cannot see or smell is the one that takes lives in their sleep. Learn fire, but learn it with care. The third skill is water. You can live a good long while without food, but only a few short days without clean water. And this is the one that catches people off guard more than any other. When the tap stops running, when the bottles are gone, do you know where to find water, and do you know how to make it safe to drink? Because water that looks clean can carry sickness that will lay you flat when you can least afford it. My people have always known their water, where the spring runs, where the well draws, how to collect the rain off the roof into barrels, and just as important, how how to make questionable water safe. The oldest and surest way is boiling. Bring water to a good rolling boil for a few minutes, and the heat kills the tiny things in it that make you sick. That one piece of knowledge, that you can make dangerous water safe with nothing but fire and a pot, has saved more lives across history than almost anything else I could name. Knowing how to gather water, store it, clean, and purify it when you must, that is a skill that stands between your family and one of the oldest dangers there is. The fourth skill is tending to the sick and the hurt with your own hands. Now, I want to be careful and honest here because this is important. I am not telling you to be your own doctor for the serious things. A deep wound, a broken bone, a fever that climbs and won't break, a sickness that's beyond the small and simple. Those need a real doctor. And if one can be reached, you reach for one. I would never want you to think otherwise. But there is a great deal of everyday tending that families used to know how to do for themselves, and most have forgotten. How to clean a wound properly so it doesn't turn bad. How to stop bleeding with steady pressure. How to bring down a small fever. How to ease a cough. How to soothe a sore throat or an upset stomach with the simple remedies that have comforted folks for generations. A spoonful of honey for a cough, a warm compress, rest and broth and clean water for a body fighting something off. Knowing the difference between what you can handle at home and what truly needs a doctor, that knowledge itself is a kind of medicine. The family that panics at every small thing and the family that doesn't know when something is truly serious are both in danger. The skill is in knowing calmly and clearly what to do and when. Keep a few simple things on hand. Learn the basics of caring for a body, and never be too proud to get real help when the situation calls for it. The fifth skill is growing food and knowing what the land around you can offer. A garden is the most basic kind of security there is. A patch of ground, some seeds, and the knowledge of how to make things grow, and you have a source of food that no store and no supply line can take from you. But it's a skill, and skills take time to learn, which is exactly why you want to start before you need it. Knowing when to plant and when to harvest. Knowing how to save seeds from this year's crop to plant next year so you never run out, so your garden renews itself forever. Knowing how to build the soil so it stays rich. And beyond the garden, there's the knowledge of what grows wild around you. Now here I must give you the same honest warning I always give, because it matters. The wild holds food, but it also holds things that will make you sick or worse, and many a dangerous plant looks much like a safe one. So you never, ever eat anything from the wild unless you are absolutely certain, taught by someone who truly knows what it is. That certainty is itself the skill. But learned properly, over time, the knowledge of how to coax food from the ground and recognize the gifts of the land is a skill that has fed humankind since the very beginning. The sixth skill is the skill of the hands, making, mending, and fixing. We live in a world now where when something breaks, you throw it away and buy another. But that world depends entirely on always being able to buy another, and there may come a day when you can't. My people can mend their own clothes so a single garment lasts 30 years. We can fix what breaks, sharpen what's gone dull, build what we need from what we have. There's a saying, use it up, wear it out, make it do, or do without. When you can mend a tear, patch a roof, repair a tool, sew a button, fix a fence, you are not at the mercy of replacement. You are not helpless when the thing you rely on fails. These skills of the hand, sewing and woodwork and simple repair, They were once common to nearly every person alive, and now they're rare. And that rareness is a kind of weakness most folks don't even know they carry. Learn to fix things. Learn to make things. Your hands are the oldest tools you own, and they can keep you and yours provided for in ways that money simply cannot, when money has nowhere to spend itself. And the seventh skill, the one that ties all the others together, is the skill of community, of being a good neighbor. Now, this might surprise you because we tend to think of survival as a thing you do alone, the lone soul against the world. But that's not how my people have endured, and it's not how human beings were ever meant to live. The truest security, the deepest safety, is in the people around you. When a barn burns down in our community, the whole community comes together and raises a new one, sometimes in a single day. When a family falls on hard times, the others carry them through. When someone is sick, the neighbors bring food and tend the chores. No one stands alone, because standing alone is how people fall. This is a skill, make no mistake. It's the skill of knowing your neighbors before you need them, of building trust over years of small kindnesses, of being the kind of person others can depend on, so that when your own hard day comes, and it will come to all of us, there are hands ready to help you up. All the food storage and fire making and gardening in the world will not save you the way a community of people who care for one another will. Know your neighbors. Help them freely. Build those bonds now, in the good times, so they're strong enough to hold in the bad. That, more than anything, is the skill that saves lives. Now let me go back through a few of these and give you the practical details that matter most, the kind of specifics that turn a nice idea into something you could actually do with your own two hands, because knowing a skill exists and knowing how to begin it are two very different things. Take the root cellar again. You don't need to dig a great chamber into a hillside to start, though that's the finest kind. Even a corner of an unheated basement, a spot that stays cool and a touch damp and dark, will keep your root vegetables far longer than any pantry shelf. The principles are simple: cool but not freezing, dark because light makes things sprout and spoil, and the right kind of damp, because too dry and your carrots go limp, too wet and things rot. You keep your fruits and your vegetables apart, because fruits like apples give off something in the air that makes vegetables age faster. You check on them, and you pull out anything that's going soft before it can spoil its neighbors, for one bad apple truly does spoil the barrel. Start with potatoes, the most forgiving of all, and learn from there. On the fire, let me give you the one thing most folks get wrong. They build it too tight, packed together so the flame can't breathe. Fire needs air every bit as much as it needs fuel. You build it loose, with little spaces for the air to move through, smallest and driest at the heart where the spark goes, then a little bigger, then bigger still, like the rungs of a ladder the flame can climb. Tinder, then kindling, then your real wood. And you always, always make sure that wherever you burn, there's fresh air coming in and bad air going out, because the danger you can't see is the one that takes you. A good fire is a living thing. Tend it like one. On water, here's a detail worth its weight in gold. When you boil to make water safe, you don't need to boil it for an hour like some folks think, wasting precious fuel. A good rolling boil, the kind with big steady bubbles, held for a minute or so, does the work. If you're up high in the mountains where the air is thin, you give it a few minutes more to be sure. And if the water's cloudy or full of bits, you let it settle first, or strain it through a clean cloth before you boil, so the heat can do its job. Storing it matters too. Clean containers, sealed, kept cool and dark, and your stored water stays good a long while. On the garden, the single most powerful thing you can learn is saving your own seed. When you buy seeds every year, you depend on someone selling them to you. But when you learn to let a few of your best plants go to seed, to gather and dry and keep that seed for next spring, your garden becomes a thing that renews itself forever, free, year after year, asking nothing of anyone. Start with the easy ones, beans and peas and tomatoes, whose seeds are simple to save and stay true. That one skill turns a garden from a yearly purchase into a perpetual gift. And on the skill of the hands, start with the smallest thing. Learn to sew a button back on. Learn to patch a hole in a knee. Learn to sharpen a knife on a stone until it cuts clean again. These tiny repairs seem like nothing, but they are the doorway. And once you walk through it, once you feel the quiet satisfaction of fixing a thing with your own hands instead of throwing it away, you'll want to learn more. That's how it grows. So there you have them. 7 skills. Keeping food without a refrigerator. Making and tending fire. Finding and purifying water. Caring for the sick and hurt. Growing food and knowing the land. Making, mending, and fixing with your hands. And building real community with the people around you. 7 skills my people have kept alive while the rest of the world set them down and walked away. And let me say one more practical word on the tending of the sick, because it's the one where good sense matters most. The wisest thing you can do is put together a simple box of supplies before you ever need it, and learn what's in it. Clean cloth for bandaging, something to clean a wound, a way to hold the dressing in place. The simple, safe remedies for the small complaints. The honey for a cough, the salt for gargling a sore throat, the means to bring a small fever down and keep a body comfortable. And alongside the supplies, the knowledge of the warning signs, the things that mean stop tending this at home and get real help now. Bleeding that won't stop, a fever that climbs and climbs, trouble breathing, confusion, a wound that grows red and hot and angry. You don't need to be a doctor to know that these are beyond you. You just need to have decided calmly ahead of time where your line is. The family that has thought this through before the hard day comes is the family that keeps its head when it arrives, and a clear head is half of every rescue there ever was. And on community, let me leave you with the truest thing I know about it. You cannot build it in an emergency. That's the whole point. The time to know your neighbor is the ordinary Tuesday, when nothing is wrong. When you bring over some extra from your garden, or lend a hand with a heavy job, or simply stop and talk a while. Every small kindness is a thread, and you spend years weaving those threads into something strong, long before you ever need it to hold weight. Then when the storm comes, and the power is out, and folks are frightened, you're not strangers behind locked doors. You're a people who know and trust one another, and that is worth more than any stockpile. The lone wolf is a story. Real survival, the kind that's lasted all these centuries, has always been a thing people do together. Now I want to say something to you plainly before we finish. I'm not telling you all this to frighten you. Fear is no way to live, and it's no reason to learn anything. I'm telling you this because there is a deep and quiet confidence that comes from knowing you can take care of yourself and your family no matter what happens. It's the opposite of fear. The person who knows these skills doesn't lie awake worrying about what might go wrong because they know that whatever comes, they'll be able to meet it. That confidence, that peace, is one of the greatest gifts I know of, and it's a gift you give yourself one skill at a time. And you don't have to learn all 7 tomorrow. That's not how it works. And trying to do everything at once is how people give up. You pick one. Maybe you start a small garden this spring. Maybe you learn to can a few jars of tomatoes this summer. Maybe you finally clean out that cellar, or learn to truly build a fire, or simply walk next door and start to know your neighbor a little better. One skill. And when that one feels natural, you add another. That's how my people have always passed this knowledge down, not in a great rush, but patiently, one thing at a time, each generation learning from the one before. There's no reason you can't begin that same way, right where you are, starting today. Because here is the truth at the heart of all of it. These skills were normal for nearly all of human history. Your great-grandparents knew most of them without ever thinking twice. It's only in the last little while, the last blink of an eye, really, that whole generations have grown up without them, depending entirely on systems they don't understand and can't control. That's a new thing in the world, and a fragile thing. The knowledge that protected human beings for thousands of years didn't stop being true. It just got forgotten. And what's forgotten can be remembered. That's all I'm really doing here, helping us remember, together, the things we never should have let ourselves forget. So start with one, learn it well, teach it to your children so it doesn't die with you. And take comfort in knowing that with every skill you reclaim, you and your family stand a little stronger, a little safer, a little more free. The world may be uncertain, but you don't have to be helpless in it. You can be ready. You can be capable. You can be the kind of person others turn to when things go wrong. And it all begins with the simple decision to learn what was nearly lost. If this is the kind of knowledge you've been hungry for, the old wisdom that got set aside and forgotten, then stay here with me. There's a great deal more where this came from, and I aim to bring it back to you, one piece at a time. Subscribe, and we'll keep remembering the old ways together. Because some of the most important lessons we ever had are the ones we let ourselves forget. And the time to remember them is always now, while the skies are still clear.